So this is essentially another sort of setup test video and just kind of an experiment with making these kinds of videos. So this is this is an experiment with the first person idea. So the subject of this video, we're going to talk about a couple of F1 cars that I have in my collection of models. So the first one is this F2002. So this is a Ferrari. It's the F2002 Ferrari. That was a world champion car in 2002, driven by Michael Schumacher, and you can recognize him with the red helmet with the stars on top. So this car, as I say, won the championship, the World Championship, Formula One World Championship in 2002. And then I want to show you another car. So this is a model kit that I have, and it's made by Hot Wheels Racing. And it came in a display case kind of style. You can kind of see some of the different angles of this car. And I want to show you one more car, same basic class of car, but it's a slightly different car. So this car is modeled after a car like this. This is a 2002 race car, Ferrari. This is modeled after the year 2000 Ferrari, and this is a Pinewood Derby car. And if you're familiar with the Pinewood Derby, it's something that the Boy Scouts do as a kind of a fun competition. And actually, I guess it's Cub Scouts more than Boy Scouts. Sorry, so younger boys in Cub Scouts. And basically, you start with a block of wood, and there are rules when you're building one of these Pinewood Derby cars. And specifically, you have to start with the block of wood in the official kit. You have to use the axles, which kind of are just little nails. So you have to use the axles that came in the kit, and you have to use the wheels that came in the kit. So this car is technically a legal Pinewood Derby car. It wouldn't do very well in the Pinewood Derby because it's really too light and it's not really set up for going fast. This one is more made for just looking at. And so it was patterned after, again, there's not the exact car, because again, this is the 2002 Ferrari, but this is patterned after the F2000 Ferrari. Again, it was also driven by Michael Schumacher at that time, and it also was a world championship winning car. So this starts as a block of wood. You can kind of see this part is the bottom of the original block of wood before doing anything, and then this was they shaped all this based on visuals from internet that I got off the internet to make this look like that race car. And then these pieces were created in paper, and they're glued onto the car. So again, to take that basic block of wood and make it look something like one of these very high-tech race cars. And so that's what this was about. So what we'll do today is, and I'm going to also show that these paper pieces have now faded significantly. This car was made many years ago, and it sits on the shelf, and the paper used to be bright red like the car here, but these colors have now faded, so it's not, you can't really see as much now that these pieces all match the car previously. So those pieces would have looked exactly like the car, or pretty close to what the car looked like back when it was originally made, but they've now faded now, so you don't really have all the colors it previously had. Same with this yellow logo here. It would have been yellow when it was originally put on the car, and you can see now that yellow is pretty faded. But because these sit on my shelf, they get really dusty. So I think what I'll do today is I'll try to clean them up just a little bit. So we'll do that together in this video. So, and this car is quite fragile because, again, these are just pieces of paper made from paper glued onto the car. So I think I'll start cleaning up the model, the Hot Wheels model. So we'll put this guy off to the side for a second, and we'll work on this guy. So I just got some hot water, just going to use a regular soft fiber rag, and we'll just kind of see if we can very small amount of water get some of this dust off here. It's very fragile. You can see there's a whole set of little radio antennas on there. They're quite fragile, so you could easily break any of those off. And I think this car even has something broken off. I can't remember what, but I think it's, sorry about that loud drop of that. That was quite loud. We're just going to use this damp cloth, just a tiny bit of water on it, and try to get some of this dust off. And again, without trying not to break off those little fragile antennas that are on there. You can see the tire. Again, sorry about that loud noise. These tires are actually quite dusty too, so we'll try to clean those up. Maybe I'll try to do this without picking it up very much, and that will probably help not make those loud banging sounds. Try to get this wheel a little bit too. How's that look? A little better. Okay, I'm going to work on this front spoiler some more. Try to get that a little cleaner. And it sits on the shelf and gets dusty. It's theoretically could have a plastic cover over it, but I like to have it without the plastic cover. It's not necessarily a high value thing. I think, I haven't even looked, but I can't imagine it's a very super high value thing, even though it's a world champion car. These little models, I can't imagine they're going up that much in value, so I don't think of it as a top dollar kind of thing. It's just kind of a cool model that I like, and I was a big Michael Schumacher fan back when he raced, and so I do like. I have a pretty extensive collection of Schumacher cars. I think I have, I don't know, several of his world championship cars, even when he was back with Benetton previously, before he went to Ferrari. This is not going to be, an absolute thorough cleaning. We're just going to do a quick, get this top layer, main layer of dust off. Looks quite a bit better already. Inside that cockpit, there's quite a bit of dust. Let's see if this will take any of that out. You can see they have quite high tech, these race cars. Maybe one day I'll do a video talking about all the suspension technology, and it's pretty cool, really. It's a lot different than your street car and how the suspension works. It's got some cool technology going on there, and of course they have to have technology within the rules too, so there's a lot of creative engineering going on to do effective things within the rules that they're permitted to do. There was a time in the early 90s when they were allowed to do what's called active suspension. So there was a car by Williams that had a complete active suspension, so it was really pretty sophisticated, but it was so fast that the governing body of Formula One outlawed that technology. So today they're not allowed to have those active suspensions, those fully active suspensions. So there's various rules about moving parts and all kinds of craziness. So the governing body is has all kinds of rules going on, and so the engineers are constantly it's kind of a back and forth. Every year the governing body comes out with more rules, and the engineers try to find some way to exploit those rules to the fullest extent. It's kind of their job. So you could say they're cheating, but they're not. If they're staying within the rules, that's what they're supposed to do. And then if the governing body feels like they're getting too much of an advantage from some tricky innovation that they did, they'll often then create new rules, try to outlaw that sophisticated advantage. Or not. Sometimes they'll say, well, it's fair if everybody can do the same thing. It's fine. But that's kind of how the whole sport works. It's a constant battle between the engineers and the governing body to find the balance. Yeah, the governing body wants a sort of fair racing and fun racing and that kind of thing, something that the fans would like. And of course, the teams that build race cars, they want to win. So there's often a balance there. If they could win every single race, they would build the car that would do that. So there's really two big parts about Formula One. There's the fascinating kind of engineering side, which if you're into the technology, that can be pretty cool. And then there's, of course, the drivers. That these are the world-class drivers. At any one time, there's usually no more than about 10 teams with 2 cars each. So we have something like 20, maybe a few more than that, but so usually no more than 25. So the Formula One drivers, you could say, there's 25 in the whole world that can do that. So there's quite a lot of competition to become an F1 driver, especially in Europe. This is a big dream for a lot of kids growing up to become a Formula One driver, and there's only 25 in the world, so you have to become somehow one of those 25 from probably millions of people that hope to be Formula One drivers someday, or certainly hundreds of thousands or thousands, and you somehow have to be one of the 25. So that's about as far as I'll go on the cleaning on this car for now. Just a quick little wipe down of some of the dust and get it a little bit cleaned up. So hopefully it looks a little bit better than it did at first. You don't see all that dust quite as bad. Although I might just get a little more off this spoiler. It's a little more maybe inside between the two. It's a double wing. This car was, in this era of car, they allowed 2 wings like that. And so that's what they did. The wings are constantly changing in terms of the rules on these cars. The width and the height, I mean the width and the surface area, so everything like that is spec'd. The height of the car, the weight of the car, everything is down to a spec. But another thing about the Formula One series racing is that one thing I really like about it is, even though there are specifications, it's not spec racing in the sense that there's only 1 or 2 manufacturers. So, as I noted, in Formula One, there's usually something like 10 or 12 manufacturers participating, and every manufacturer builds their own car. So they're given the same specs. You make a car that meets those specs, but you end up with a dozen cars, unique cars. Every manufacturer builds their own car. There are usually a limited number of engines, so usually there's maybe 4 or 5 engine manufacturers at any one time, and so the cars are often, multiple cars often use the same engine, but the car itself, the overall car design, is made individually bespoke by every manufacturer. So. That's one thing I like about it, is you don't just get the same 4 race cars painted differently. It's every single team builds their own. Now this I have to be a little more careful with because, like I said, all these little parts on here are paper, so they're not going to accept a lot of water. So I have to be very careful around those. They're not going to want to get too wet. And they're just glued on there, so that glue's pretty old now too. It's been on there quite a while. But we can get a layer of dust off this thing anyway. Get it somewhat cleaner. Look a little bit better with getting the this dust off of here. Getting under that wing's a little tricky. And again, I'm not going to be able to get the wing too clean because it's not going to accept water. So I'll probably have to attack that with a different approach maybe another day. But we'll get a layer of dust off anyway. It'll look a little bit better. Again, the whole thing's pretty fragile, so these little winglets, sorry about that, these little winglets on the side, that was technology. You can see they were on the other model as well. That's to direct the airflow. And another one of those engineering benefits that they were trying to work out. Again, this is from 2000, so this is technology from 2000. But you'll find a lot of things similar even in a modern, in a more recent race car. But they're constantly changing things like these wings, their locations. Oops, I peeled that back a little bit. They're constantly changing these regulations around these wings and specifications on weight and, well, not weight, that doesn't change as much, but specifications on like length and height and how big this scoop can be and how big that wing can be and how big that wing can be and how low it can be. And so all these specs are constantly changing. So that's one place where the visual of what these cars look like on any given year changes quite a bit because the new specs involve things like that, where the wings get bigger, wings get smaller, they move up and down, or they can go, how far forward they can be, how far back they can be. And so you'll see those over years, those things, in different years, you'll see those kinds of changes on these cars as they deal with the new rule sets. And that's another thing, like I say about it, I mean, they have to constantly design a new car every time the rules change, so they're back to ground zero and learning as much as they can from previous cars. But if the rules changed, it's kind of like, starting all over again, designing another car that fits those rules. And you can see these little wheels. You can see they say, I don't know if you can see it, but they say right there, these are the official BSA, Boy Scouts of America, Pinewood Derby. It says right on the tire there. You can see that. And these are one-piece wheels. They're painted to look like, this is one piece of plastic wheel and tire. They're painted to look like the wheel is separate, but it's just one piece to make it, and they just make it look like it's a separate wheel and tire. And the same thing with the whole car. It's just one big block of wood that was shaped into this shape. And then we painted it a little bit to make it look like it's got features. There's not really any holes there. They're just painted to look like that. It's still just a block of wood. Same with the front. It's kind of made to look like, to look like the front suspension of that car, but really that's just all part of the same block of wood. So it's cleaned up a little bit. You can see it's a little bit better than it was, not quite as much dust on it. So I think I'll quit while I'm ahead before I break this thing. You can kind of see that. This is Pinewood Derby car made by hand. These pieces made out of paper and glued on. And again, that paper is faded so that it doesn't have the colors like it once did, but you can kind of see the design. I got that wheel is still pretty dirty. So that's that. There we go. Whoops, I keep bumping into the camera, I'm sorry. Okay, so we'll call that a day. So these are the two cars. We've got the Pinewood Derby car. Whoops, again, a little bit loud, sorry about that. Wow, that was really loud, sorry. So you've got the model kit of a 2002 Ferrari race car, and you've got the little Model 2000 Ferrari race car made from a block of wood for a Pinewood Derby spec. So that's my first person video. I thought I'd give it a try. Thanks for watching.